Hello everyone, welcome back to Broken Scripts. It's going to be the third episode where I talk about the timeline of events for your characters, your journey and the pathway for your character that you have decided to write within your story and storyline. And this a lot of stuff that is very important to understand. It can be for your main character or not. It could be your very supporting character or any other type of character you have in the story. Each character has their own life within the story, so they have their own individual timeline events that will be eventually be the collectively the entire storyline within your story. For this one, this episode is mostly going to focus on individual timelines because that's something that is important to understand when it comes to creating your characters, is understanding the life that these characters are going to live within the story. And it's also important to understand that character arcs are a major part of this as well, because that's basically what character arc is the timeline and the pathway for your character within the story. So that's something that is very important to understand, the importance of why a timeline of events is needed, especially when it comes to writing a screenplay. Writing a new story could be exciting, but also overwhelming. Creating character timelines helps identify and avoid plot holes. Setting aside time from actual writing to creating a timeline has many payoffs, which include coming up with more believable characters and having clarity about what drives your main character or characters. While the benefits of creating character timelines, while a timeline helps you move your characters throughout the story, it keeps track of all the events happening within the story and in the story. Know where your characters are at all times, location-wise, or where they are within themselves mentally, or within the story point within the story, which act they're also in. Mostly the free act structure is mostly known, so that's something that's important to understand, is the placement of those characters and where they are. And also, on a side note, we have that flashback. Think about how those flashbacks of foreshadow type of events would correspond with the story arc within the character's storyline timeline. Getting to know your characters better before you write too much of a story. This is why it feels like it's the beginning stages of this story writing, is because that's basically what it really is. It's you're thinking about the characters and individually, and thinking about the path that they're going to take, and that's basically the beginning. So that's something that's important to for you to understand, is don't jump too ahead of it all, because if you jump too ahead, you might think about the ending too soon and you may change it eventually, and you may have to start over. So it's best to start from beginning to end. Look ahead of your character's future. Try and defeats the purpose of what I just said. But however, I'm saying this for this instead is the individual character's future, not the storyline's future. The character. That's something there's a difference there for you to understand how all that will be for your character eventually throughout the story. By looking ahead of your individual character's future, while the events may change as you're writing, you would already have an idea of where each character is heading to help them get to their destination within the story. Include events that are only relevant to the plot. Also, do the best you can to avoid plot holes that would mess up the flow of the story. Even more benefits of creating character timelines is where a timeline is the big picture of the story. It allows you to see the beginning, middle, and end of the story, like eventually across. And once you gather the timeline events for most of your characters within your story, applying your story, after you write the timelines and storylines for yourself, you will look at it and read it as if you are the audience member, not the writer. You know what I'm saying? Think about the perspective of what you're reading, is understanding how it would make sense and help you choose what really sticks and what's not necessary within the story, and help you avoid unnecessary backstory. It'll help you see how much you have read. Once you see it from a different perspective, after you read the script, you will see it will be a perfect opportunity for you to rewrite certain things within the story, that because you're looking things over, it helps you see how much information you may have quote dumped within your story. It helps you map out the things to follow. You can plot timelines of your characters and outside stuff outside of the script, so you may have like a spreadsheet or a storyboard writing or note cards writing online for that to help you understand these character story. A way for you to do that is, the reason why people do that is because it helps them become organized of creating and understanding and creating the beats for the story within your character's journey. There are some things that you may be wondering about, and there are things that there are questions to ask yourself in building a timeline. For example, how old are the characters when the story begins? Remember to understand that not writing their entire life, you have to write the story the timeline is start your age, for example, and then forward it'll be in the middle of their lives or so, and it depends on how much of the life of the character is going to be within the story. So it's important to understand that as well, is that you're not writing their entire life. However, when it comes to writing certain characters, not all characters, but certain characters you have to write as if you have known them your entire life. Also think about where the characters are in the story, and location-wise. This is the point where you think about the location of the character, the setting, where they are in their life, and the culture or the world they're in, especially if you are also thinking about world building as well. What's the exciting moment? Basically, the purpose of the story, what's some of your main characters' goals for the story, what other characters do they interact with, how all of those characters when the story ends, and how does the story end, and how is it different, and who is part of it. And I feel like that part is having because when you come up with timelines for your characters, a bunch of other characters aren't going to be the same amount of characters you have in your big game story. It's not going to be the same in the end. Not always. So think about which characters are going to follow the leader, basically, of your story, and go to the journey as well. Understand who's necessary to be in the end of the story with the main character. Another thing is to focus on what happens within the story. The story is in and part of the characters' lives, and understand the balance of how long these characters are within the story. A balance doesn't mean, screen time for every single character you present within the story. My second episode, where I talk about character roles, goes more deeper and talk about the character roles for certain characters, because those characters have certain roles. You have the main character, you have the supporting characters, you have the extras, you have the villains, you have the supporting characters for the villains, and etc. So that's something we do. I went more deeper in the previous episode. I broke in scripts there. Understand that the opposing character has their own timeline events as well, so you also need to focus on those characters as well. And a little tip is you won't necessarily include all these details in the timeline. However, knowing the answers will help you have an idea of how the picture will be, and by picture I mean the mind you have of what you see within the story you are writing. Key components to include when creating character timelines are character arcs or major events shape your character before and during the story, the characters, why the characters are who they are, what makes them that way, how they change, how that relates to other characters in your story, the character and goal, where do those characters want to be by the end of the story, track your characters' movements from city to city, place to place as well, identify important back story and foreshadowing. This helps you keep on track of what the audience would already know. Events critical to the development of your story. Track the major points for all various subplots in your story. Do you have the right balance and proportion for each? And another tip is to avoid including every single event in the timeline. Just include the major ones. You won't fit everything in otherwise. After deciding the start of the point of your story, think about what brought the character to that point. Use some examples, traumatic events, a battle where they witnessed or was a part of, or something where they had to survive, such as a tornado, an accident, or an incident that was beyond their control. Joyful events, there's a small detailed moments that they remember something clearly or dearly, and that's something that they are witness where the character some way experienced it became pleasant. Also, it be involving a group of friends, a destination, or both. Key people that they met or interacted with, such as new friends, a crush, or mentor, throughout that character's journey, within the past or within the present. That either way will work. There's some actions that they have taken, a new path of their life, or a change of heart on what the character believes in within when it comes to their beliefs, changed the perspective on something important relating to the future of the storyline. Any events, situations, circumstances, or experiences that could define them throughout the story. Maybe your story isn't set in stone yet. You're the beginning phase, you can always change it later on. The beginning and the ending. Don't start the timeline for your story on the day of when your characters are born. Don't go all the way to the beginning. There's something think about the important part of your story, think about the fun part where the fun can happen, probably a crisis or something that is the reason for your story to happen, to keep your audience's interest immediately as soon as possible. Also add any events to get you through the end of the story, and the ending of is where the main character reaches his or her goal. And here's a tip that should be useful is you clearly see unnecessarily repetitive scenes, bad story information in a bunch of other characters you may know of. So find a way to make them stand out individually as well when it comes to creating the timeline for your individual characters. And when you create the timeline, if you love the structure and you're writing, you'll probably want to create your characters' timelines before you start writing the story. It's best to think about being organized as much as you can. Nevertheless, if you already have a clear idea of where your story is heading and you want to get to the ordinary scenes when portion of it at first. The trading timeline is something that then you already would have everything put together since you already have created a timeline. It's also important to fill in the steps that would get your character to reach the end goal. Consider major milestones, also minor but not too minor events that define the character's experiences within what happens with the character and begin and ending of important relationships, not just character relationships, but probably like a relationship with the world. Think about the world building of all, and when the world building is new people that we meet social wise or anything along the lines of that. Also that will help them shape and move their mindset in different ways with how they are with the story. When the create character timelines, it's best to start small and simply create a timeline for your broad characterness first, then for any other important characters can follow. When you create the character timeline, if the relevant, make sure that all the timelines work together for the plot of the story in the back of your mind. Don't forget about the fact that you want to be consistent and also focus on the plot and the major storyline that drain your audience's attention. It's important not to lose your audience's attention when it comes to creating the character timelines as well, because if you trade a bunch of timelines, it also depends on you how long you want to spend time on these character timelines, because you probably have a deadline or something. So it's important to think about the timing of how you organize these characters. Think about a way to have certain times for certain characters. Think about the main character, main villain, for example. You probably will want more time spent on focusing on them compared to other supporting characters. So it's also important to navigate them in the best way you can with that. When it comes to screenwriting, it's basically all formed where the timeline events act as a linchpin, holding the story together. The journey that you have with the storyline and the way you decide to craft these characters within the timeline events, they play a memorable part within what you have the world, your character's world, when it comes to having it established in any audience can see on the world. So think about establishing the character's world within your story, about the relationships and challenges that are in play, and it's important to have emotions within these conflicts as well, and also find a way to make the resolution satisfying. And then also think about the character's timeline when it comes to the inciting incident, where the form of how the character is to where the point where the setting is within the story to have it work in motion, and think about spotting a series of events that will define the character's journey. And think about and understand that sparkling a series of events that will define their journey will go a long way. Think about the rising actions and the symmetry of conflict and revelation as the story progresses. The rising action unfolds, resembling the symmetry of conflicts and revelations. Each scene contributes to the crescendo of the character's journey, introducing obstacles, allies, adventures, adversaries. The character's strengths and vulnerabilities merge to create a dynamic interplay that deepens the audience's connection with their struggles and aspirations. It's about the audience as well. Think about what did I get out of this when it comes to seeing the story, and also think about the turning points, the pivotal moments in the temporal tapestry within the timeline. Turning points of act as narrative signposts, guiding the characters through transformative moments. These can be personal, it's unexpected, or joining them having allies, or anything that probably would have the characters feel betrayal, that force the characters to confront their inner conflict with themselves. The turning points are not only redirect the character's path, but also serve as an emotional landmark for the audience, ensuring that they remain engaged and invested. When it comes to the climax, for example, the narrative aspect, apex, is a combination of character's journey. It represents the zenith of tension, the point of ultimate conflict resolution or transformation. Here the character confronts the greatest challenge, recovering them to draw upon the lessons and growth accumulating throughout the journey. The climax is the crucible where the character's mettle is tested and their destiny is decided. When it comes to the falling action, the building of tension, the narrative shifts into falling action, where a phase where tension gradually ebbs, subplots find resolution, and lingering questions are answered. The characters reflect on their journey or ongoing final moments that solidifies their growth. It's a moment of introspection, closure, and prepare the audience for denouement, resolution, communication within the journey. It reaches the character's journey and towards the final destination, where the loose ends are nearly tied and the character emerges from the change, and the resolution provides the audience of a resonant and lasting impression of the character's evolution. The character's arcs and evolution over time embedded with the timeline of the character's arc. The timeline of events is basically another side of the character arc, a dynamic transformation that reflects the protagonist's growth, for example, both emotionally and so artificially, whether it's a hero's journey from the narrative to wisdom, or later he was descended into darkness. The character art weaves seamlessly through the temporal fabric, adding layers of complexity to the narrative. The subplots within the tapestry of parallel narratives beyond the protagonist's journey. The screenplay often features subplots and they intertwine within the main timeline as parallel narratives in which the storytelling experience providing depth to secondary characters or introducing additional characters. Skillful handlings of subplots shows a multi-dimensional narrative that captivates the audience without distracting them from the central journey, and also as pointed table the foreshadowing and callbacks that place events within the deep details. As much detail as you possibly could create, it's well crafted to put the art of foreshadowing to hint the future of events, creating a sense of anticipation. As the timeline unfolds, these planted seeds sprout into meaningful developments, satisfying a connection between earlier in the story and towards the end, and calling back scenes that enhance the coherence, rewarding to the viewers of a sense of their sympathy. Time as a theme, exploring the temporal concepts beyond a literal timeline. There's a straight line. The time itself can serve as a dramatic element. Screenwriters may play with concepts such as flashbacks, flash forwards, or non-linear storytelling to manipulate the perception of time. This experimental approach adds layers of intrigue, changing traditional story norms and engaging audience in a more typically manner. It's to no influence the world beyond the character. The character's journey is not isolated. It's influenced by external factors such as the setting, social norms, and cultural contexts. The time should reflect on involving the world around them, the world around the character, showcasing similar relationships between the individual journey and the broader canvas of the story's universe. The unpredictable, embracing the unknown while meticulous planned timeline forms the backbone of a screenplay, leaving the room for unpredictable actions or elements adds something brilliant for the characters that make them have unexpected choices, the events that have them move into a better character for themselves, even allowing for the organic developments within the temporal framework and inject authenticity into the narrative, creating a more compelling and relatable story for the audience to enjoy. And in the realm of screenwriting, the character's timeline is really a trilogical series of events by dynamic tapestry, interwoven with emotions, conflicts, and growth. Aspiring writers must recognize the temporal intricacies that breathe life into characters, creating a sympathy that resonates the audience after the credits roll. The meticulous construction of the character's timelines is the epitome of that transforms words into paper into a immersive, unforgettable experience. Crafting the screenplay, its timeline involves the multi-phase approach that goes beyond the linear progression of events, characters, arts, subplots, foreshadowing, imagined exploration, external influences, visual storytelling, and a willingness to embrace the unpredictable or attribute the temporal tapestry that captivates the audiences and elevates the screenplay from a mere script into a journey through time within the characters, within your story, and beyond that. Let's not forget that the timeline of events is a pathway and the journey for who these characters are. Each and every single one of them within your story is based on the imagination and creativity you have within yourself when their individual timeline of events intertwine and come one within the storyline and fits your story. It will shape the storyline in a better way than you could ever imagine, which is something that you created, which will be exciting for you to see come to life. And the event part that is there creates the experience for your audiences as well, so that way your audience will become fans of what you wrote on the script, to have them fall in love with the stuff that you create. Unspoken moments, the power of silence, amidst the dialogue and action in the screenplay's timeline can benefit from moments of silence and non-verbal communication. These unspoken moments allow for emotional resonance, enabling the audience to connect with the characters on a deeper and more visceral level. A glance, a pause, or substance gesture can speak volumes, persuading the timeline with layers of unexpressed emotions. Dynamic environments shaping the journey consider the role of dynamic environments in influencing the character's journey. Contribute the scenes to the narrative rhythm. A changing environment can mirror the character's internal evolution or serve as a metaphorical backdrop, influencing decisions and shaping the tone of the story. Understanding how to create timeline events from the start, it becomes dynamic, weaving together tapestry, nuance, and emotional resonance, embracing how enhancing the storyline will become for your characters throughout the crafting of your story and writing. When the pieces fall into place, it becomes brilliant storytelling. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Think about if you want to add something else, leave it in the comments. Thank you for listening. If you want early access to this, you can check out my Patreon. The link is in the description and on the comment section. It's pinned. I appreciate all of you for listening. I'll see you for the next one. Happy New Year. Bye.